So, The Witch. The Witch, yeah. So this is something which I don't think has actually a very big release. And I'm very glad I got to see this because I feel like it's going to be one of those things that is going to be out in cinemas for a very short amount of time. It came out actually just recently here in Ireland. I think it was last week it came out. You know, it's been going to festivals and whatnot, and it's been sort of perceived as this sort of, I don't know, artsy sort of film. You know, I've heard these things about it, that it's a very unconventional sort of horror movie. And I mean, I love pretty much every sort of horror. That's not to say, like, I love every horror that I watch. But I mean, I love the genre, and I love how, I suppose, the range that the genre has. And this, it seemed like this was going to fall into the sort of thing that'd be sort of the psychological sort of thing. Very slow, and not really a whole lot of big scares or anything like that. But I gotta be honest, it was much more than I expected. Really, although this was kind of the same sort of slow thing, this really was quite similar to The Shining, I felt. Because if you look at The Shining, that's something which has some very horrifying imagery in it, but it also has this sort of tone throughout it, which is very unnerving. Now, I'm not going to compare the two movies, but this does have that same sort of thing with it. Now, in the case of this doesn't entirely have its tone of sort of unease. It's that sort of really starts kind of in the second act, maybe halfway through the second act, because there are moments in it which people are just having conversations. I mean, conversations which are meaningful to the plot, but they are having conversations, and it's not particularly scary at all. So there's no like tone of sort of, okay, this is kind of scary, because there's nothing witchy exactly going on in those scenes. In this movie, we've got this idea that this family, they move out of a village because of the sort of belief that they have. They've got this certain, the way they take their beliefs, it just doesn't fit with the way that they were living before, so they just had to leave and sort of settle on and have their own little farm thing going on, make their corn and whatnot. And then things just go to shit, really. One of their children gets taken away, there's a witch around, and what we get from this is not only horrifying imagery involving witches, and witches, I don't know what it is, but witches just freak me the hell out. They do. But not only do we get the stuff with the witches, but we get this stuff where these bad things are happening to the family, and we see how that affects the family. And it's very interesting because when these things are happening, this sort of, the family members, they suspect what's going on, and they suspect sort of each other, but mainly the main girl, Thomasin. And I think that I suppose that's one of the things. Like, not only is it similar to The Shining in the way it plays with its tone, and the fact that it does, as well as the tone it has, its horrifying imagery. It has that idea, which I think is quite similar to The Exorcist. Actually, The Exorcist has all these you know, this scary idea with the possession going on and all that, but one of the scary things about that is how the possession affects the people around. I mean, that's kind of like the main idea again here, how that all affects. But really, the way that this movie left me feeling was something which I do not often feel with a horror movie. I was left in like utter shock at what I had just seen. And I'm surprised of all the reviews that I've watched of this movie, no one seems to be talking about how horrifying this movie is. It's not immediately scary. Okay, that's not true. Okay, first 5 minutes, Grant, something does happen earlier on, which is what the fuck sort of creepiness. And that stuff kind of does continue on. Just that ending. The last 10 or so minutes of this movie, my heart was beating. I could tell that I was just thinking something's gonna happen. And there were moments throughout the movie when it went to black and I was thinking, oh, is the movie over? And I'm glad it kept on going, which was a relief, because what this movie ended with was, what was really weird about the ending of this movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but it was actually pretty much identical to a nightmare I had, I don't remember when, maybe it was a year ago or something, involving witchcraft. And sort of, you take that sort of innocent idea from, say, that's mentioned in Hugo, where you ever wonder where your dreams come from, this is where they're made, talking about filmmaking. And then it just thinking, okay, so my nightmare, this is it on the screen. It's just, it was just weird that actually happened. I actually saw my nightmare there. Not only did I see my nightmare like played out, but I saw it done in an even worse way. It was, I don't know. Maybe this movie affected me so much because of that sort of personal attachment to the fact I did have a nightmare. That was that ending. I don't know. But really, I thought this was a great movie. I really thought it was interesting to show just how these people sort of, how far their beliefs will go. I also found it very realistic, which is interesting because it's dealing with the topics of witchcraft, and which is something obviously most people don't believe in, but I found it very believable because of the sort of the costumes and the location, and the way it was written. I think it was written very well. It was written in a way that it felt like authentic for the time that it was meant to be set. I think it's meant to be set in the 17th century, sometime in the 17th century. Like I mentioned there, the production design, the location, where it's all set, the woods. I just loved seeing these things. It's one of those times, like in a horror movie, where I have this mixed feeling of I'm feeling a little bit scared, but at the same time that looks really cool. And the way that the woods looked were cool. The way that the people walking through the woods, it reminded me a bit of The Village, I guess. Not a horror movie, but I mean, I still like the way that stuff was done. Just stuff in woods, it's generally just kind of pretty cool. You got stuff with the moon, which is really good. There's one shot in particular I absolutely love. I don't remember the exact point that it's at. I think it might be the one that's on one of the posters, where you see a woman, and she's sort of a silhouette of a woman, and there's sort of branches around, and then there's the moon there. It's in the movie itself. It plays out a bit differently to that. Although that might be a mix of stuff in the end and this, because I don't know, this could be something else. But I did really like that shot with the moon there. And then another thing I also really loved was the music. The way the music was in this. I don't know if there was any original music used in this, but some of the music in this it just reminded me of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The scenes in 2001: A Space Odyssey with the monolith, ominous chanting sort of choir music, you had a lot of that, and there'd be ways where the music would go really, really high, and it would just sort of build up to sort of just maybe nothing or something, but then maybe other times it might build up to something, and then something does come, and I love that. I love when a horror movie can do that sort of a thing, just that sense of unease, you know? Really, that just sums up the whole movie. The whole movie is just unsettling. I think really it is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, which is not something I say often, because I mean, I see a lot of horror movies all the time, and it's really not often that a horror movie really scares me. This really scared me. As far as placing it in favorite horror movies, I don't know. Scariest, I really definitely one of the scariest. I don't know about rewatchability value to it, and I wouldn't say that's a negative about it. Not all good movies need to be something that you'd watch again. I mean, my favourite movie, The Exorcist, is not something I'd watch on a regular basis, but it's something that eventually when I come to, I'm just like, here, this, and this, I imagine this will be probably in that same sort of category. It might be something I might watch once a year. I definitely like to, when it comes out on Blu-ray, maybe watch it at Halloween, if it's out by that time. I hope so, because it will be, there is possibly a chance that there could be some hints to some things along the way. Might have a different look on it when I watch it again. I don't know. That's the exciting thing. Horror movies, they can be scarier when you watch them again, and it's crazy. Really, The Witch, I definitely recommend it if you're a fan of horror. I don't know. Some people are not impressed with this movie. I don't know why. I really don't understand why. But who am I to judge? So, yeah, thank you all for watching. Feel free to leave some comments below. Have a bit of discussion going on. And I'll see you guys next time.